All right. Hi, everyone. This is Sanket here yet again. Today, we are talking to one of the finest sports nutritionists we have in India. Geetha ma'am, thank you again for accepting our invite, joining us today. For our readers, for our viewers, we'll just have a short introduction of you. Everybody who are playing sports or maybe have knowledge in biology, health sciences, or nutrition, whatever you call it. I think today is the session you must be looking at or probably reading about. And as we will talk more about sports nutrition. So Geetha ma'am actually is one of the person who marries science and sports together, if I may say so. There's a lot of things about human anatomy, biology, and then there's one thing about sports, but very few people get them to talk to each other. And I think you are doing that fantastic job, ma'am. For our readers and viewers, you are a Geeta ma'am is a leading sports nutritionist we have in India. She's also a dietitian, registered IOC. If I say so, IOC is certified. Probably one of the few we have in India. She's a lecturer. She's a speaker. She's a columnist. You have worked with IPL teams. You are a guest faculty at Sports Authority. So many things. I mean, there's so much to talk about in today's session, Geeta ma'am. Thank you again for joining us. Uh, there's so much to say that I left something for you as well. and you know, Today is one of the sessions I look forward to because it's World Cup going on. A lot of sports passion in India. Indian team is playing so well. Asian Games we saw sports athletes have been performing exceedingly well. We saw the para games getting more medals than the men's and women in the main section. So how do you think the sports industry now overall shaping up in India? Do you see that times are changing now with for good?
Yes, thank you so much, Sanket, for having me. Talk about the sports nutrition journey for myself and for India. Absolutely, I think I would be very biased in perhaps honing this down very purely into sports nutrition. Yes, I think sports cricket was India is always a cricket crazy country. Yes, of course, but apart that, it's lovely to see how the medal or the medal tally has been increasing, and I think the effort that is taken by the government to recognizing how the support system needs to change around the athletes, and particularly even in nutrition. I think not only in context to offering support, also the passion for pursuing sports nutrition at an academic level. I
Right.
think today this particular or a vertical of sports science is really picking up momentum, uh,
Absolutely.
and the way we, like you actually said, and I'm very fortunate now that I have a couple of Olympians I worked with, and Paralympians, and one in fact or two. From Youth Commonwealth, the Asian Games. Now, currently, I think I do work with a bunch of swimmers. So Asian or national championship that's going on, the national games, sorry, national games that's on in Goa. So I think it's amazing to see how we are able to bring about changes, and there are national records being made, bettering their time from just the last year, which was held in Gujarat. So
Exactly.
it's so wonderful to see how as sports nutrition is taking shape, and we are able to come to the fore as any other support staff, where in the past perhaps dietitians or sports nutritionists were not given the prominence of adding value to an athlete's ecosystem,
Yeah.
uh, where diet itself was, or nutrition guidance was offered by, say, XYZ. Whereas today we have come to a point where, thankfully, from Sports Authority of India, who has really been quite expansive in terms of having personnel as sports nutritionists on board, from having even a chef to cater to, the foods. I think now the top scheme, which is again helping athletes to, look at purely Olympic representation, to the medals that seem to be,
Right.
going. So definitely, I think, of course, as I aptly said, I will be very biased being a sports nutritionist and a dietitian. That yes, I think for over 20 years that I have been doing this, it is but natural for me to be, favorable and partial to my domain. So yes, there's a lot of scope, and of course, it's a learning for us to. Not having completed my PhD until date, I wonder where I could enroll. uh, Sadly, now I don't know if it's still possible. But yes, I think every day is a learning, and you keep upskilling. So not that we know everything, but just the desire to keep improving definitely can help. And I think that is the vision for myself and for this subject going forward.
No, definitely. I think, as you rightly pointed out, I think a couple of things. One is the infrastructure. I think there's a huge growth in the sports infrastructure in the country, which is without doubt. I think last 10 years has pretty much changed the landscape of the sports. The growing, we'll say the interests in sports, and not just sports, but also the back end nutrition, strength and conditioning, etc. The academics has picked up, on some of these. Now there are dedicated courses and programs run by universities. There's where people earlier thought sports करना है तो फिर या तो खेलना ही है, मतलब it's all about playing sports. But now it's not just about playing sports, it's also about you can go into learn sports science as a proper dedicated 4 years program, and then you have nutrition, and then after that you can always branch out into different other aspects of sports. Which actually is quite good, because now with people like you in the industry, a lot of newcomers do see a future of themselves. In the next 10 years, I think things will change even further for good. And India is actually a growing power now, not just in terms of economics, but also in terms of sports and in terms of multiple other aspects. You also mentioned about swimming. You have some of the swimmers now working closely with you. We focus a lot on swimmers as well. One of the sports which is not much followed in India, and we are trying to make an attempt to see how we can bring forward some other players from the swimming fraternity, and then more people can follow them or read about them, about the regime. So we'll touch base with you on a bit about the dietary requirement around swimming. But before that, some of the general things which comes to my mind to start with. As a sports people, as an athlete, we try to cater for athletes who are, who may be very young, maybe 11 to 17 years old, in that age bracket, and some of them may be just starting off. Some of them might be swimming since age of 6-7 years, and probably now is the time when they think, can I take it professionally under my age group, whatever it is. Um, Parents might be thinking the same, what should I do, how should I do. So what should we, from your experience, you have dealt with a number of such athletes and parents, what could be the right time for these people to think that you need to be taking this very seriously around nutrition, taking things seriously around gymming and some of the other stuff, not just playing it. So when do you think probably will be the right time to decide some of these areas?
That's a good question, Sanket. And often when I get inquiry calls, parents do ask us that. My child is only 8 years, 10 years, 11 years, preteens, 12 years. So should we look at considering a formal or a professional collaboration?
Right.
And I would definitely say yes. I mean, if you're looking at pursuing this as, not for passion, but you want to compete and play
Of
professionally. If you want to hone your game and you want to definitely, be top notch, the earlier you start, the better. I've had kids as young as 8 years, and today there's all budding, in fact, athletes. Uh, the reason being that there's a lot of misconception around food.
Hmm.
And food is very interesting and very dynamic. So, and India being so vast and varied, and the food habits, and today with all the confusing noise on the internet, there is very lot of misguidance around what to do and what not to do. So if an athlete is very sure to pursue sports, and for that matter, even if they don't want to be elite, I think there's a very classic difference, like the way I said, even in my son's case, to from being just a recreational athlete, just playing a sport for passion, to actually, picking it up as a career. And for in many times, I also see athletes who play professionally for the reason that they also get into universities based on sports
Right, right,
and
right.
pursue sports. Unlike our days where we did not have sports as a subject, but today, luckily, they do. So, in many ways, yes, it can be value addition. So, to reiterate, what I set out to say was that even if a person wants to be healthy and you don't want to have injuries, getting a sports nutrition program to make sure that you are not only eating well. If you train about anywhere between more than 1 or 2 hours a day, then definitely you may need some guidance,
Right,
and that may be best for the overall development, considering young children not only have needs for sports nutritionally, but also to take care of their growth, and most importantly, overtraining challenges in an urban setting where the
right,
children do school and then they're training 4 hours, 6 hours, perhaps even slightly older kids also do SNC or strength training.
right,
So injuries are pretty common, from muscle soreness, stiffness, DOMs, sprains. We do come across all of these very routinely in our consultation. So earlier the better, if you are very serious about picking up this particular vertical of sports as your passion and want to pursue professionally, or definitely if you have the budget and you can afford to consult a dietitian, then definitely for your overall well-being, I would say yes, why not?
definitely. And in fact, in India, as you rightly pointed out, such a big country and we are so vast, uh, from north to south, the food habits are so different. On one side you like eating sambar, dosa, idli. On the other side, you are pretty much surviving on chapatis and parathas. And some of the players I know in cricket who play IPL, I was just reading about them. वो सुबह शाम पराठे पराठे पे चल रहे हैं, or they have like 8 packs, 6 packs already. So something might be working for them. I don't know, but food habit जैसे बोलते हैं इंडिया में, my mother is my dietitian. Whatever I get in my plate, चावल दाल ये वो this that, मेरा काम चल रहा है उससे, मैं खेल पा रहा हूँ, ये कर पा रहा हूँ. I mean, they will be more than happy. It's very difficult to kind of bring that attention that no, there could be something you can do about it. You can be much leaner, you can be much fitter, you can be much fluid in what you do if you follow or break this, or maybe take small portions at different intervals, or whatever it may be. There's some discipline you might have to bring to. So that is one notion in India, of course, because the habits are different. As you also mentioned, the whether they can afford to consult a professional like you, and I'm sure you might be consulting a lot of people are coming to you and say, oh look, I cannot afford, but can you help? So I think people are coming forward now, but breaking that barrier is very important. That Ghata Khana is, of course, is the best thing to do, but you must have a discipline even for that. And
And those who can't perhaps even think of consulting, or maybe because of budget constraints,
right,
there's a lot of education that we offer, right? Even for that matter, this interactive session, I'm sure we'll throw light on some nuances of what is sports science and nutrition.
absolutely,
So they could also learn today so much from you know the educational series we put out, the webinars, the seminars, and those kind of sessions which are offered without any cost, where athletes can really
true,
make use of it.
true, true, true. And in fact, as you rightly pointed out, and there is no dearth of information on internet. And probably that's one of the things why people should more reach out to professionals, because so much of information on internet can confuse you. So
True. I think to not just look at dandy marketing strategies, or these social media handles, but I think to also find credible information from well-read individuals. Some of them may not look very fancy,
no,
but I think it's very important to understand where their education comes from, and to have the qualification in mind, where you really want to respect that. Today, I think that is pretty short-lived.
very short-lived, right? And so much of marketing which is happening nowadays, which sends people into frenzy in a sense, like whether this is good for me or not good for me, I don't know. Now I can't say, because there's one party which says it is good for me, the other party says no, it's not good because it has got this as ingredients which is not good for you. And we see these things playing out on Twitter and multiple other handles these days very often. So guys, I mean, whoever are confused, you should better consult, have a professional nutritionist, get some right recommendations and suggestions, and then probably follow. Don't just follow because someone else is saying it for marketing purposes. Great. I think Geetha ma'am sets a very good context to our discussion now. Some of the things which I will also want to pick up with you. I have two daughters, and you have a son. Now, dietary requirements for kids and for athletes will differ. If and likewise for men and women will be very different. You know, my kids are more into swimming, basketball, and some of the other stuff. Your son is playing like 12 sports, could be even more in times to come. How do you support the dietary requirements? Is it dependent on one particular sport, like in your case, 12 sports? Because you for cricketers you have a different regime, for swimmers you have a different regime, but somebody who's playing 12 sports, how will you go and give a plan to such people?
Uh, Thankfully, my son is only a recreational athlete and just plays for passion. So there's no hard training of say 4, 6, 8 hours a day, which is a regime. So it's just school and sports. So that's that. But yes, again, that really also perhaps I'd like to speak about your question in a very general note as to how we would deal with it if it was an athlete. Mm, we firstly have to look at their background as to are they vegetarians, non-vegetarians, their family setup, tradition, and we don't want to really deviate away from what they're already practicing. Because I've had an athlete who saw me, who a badminton player, now plays internationally. My coach is telling me to eat non-veg, so do I consume chicken? So the first thing I asked was, what do you want? It's not about the coach, it's not about anybody else. It really matters as to what is your core value, or what kind of a diet you want to practice. And besides, also your family. What about your parents? Will they be supportive of what you want to eat? Right? I think that is what is, we are, like I always say, we are only there to facilitate or offer what the clients practice already exists, and we will build around that. For example, if an athlete eats paneer, we will say you want say 15-20 grams of paneer in one meal. So will you need to eat 200 grams paneer, or will you eat 3-4 eggs, or will you just eat 100 grams chicken?
Right.
The target is that 20 grams.
True.
So we are just there to tell you which way you go and how do you achieve that objective.
Depending
So
on.
similarly, right. And then, of course, in vegetarian athletes, there are, of course, it comes with a lot of other challenges of, low levels of B12 and vitamin D challenge, or low iron. And especially you said your child plays basketball. In an impact sports as that, we'll always see foot strike hemolysis where there's a breakdown of RBCs. And God forbid, if you're vegetarian, iron and ferritin stores are pretty much, quite often low because of the RBC breakdown. And the child can be very fatigued, especially with a girl, like she's menstruating and there's already a loss of blood. So these are the parameters we want to look at holistically, where we look at least in our kind of work, I personally definitely thank God for that. And I'm a registered dietitian. I work always purely with blood tests, which means that physiologically it gives us an insight to what is going on, right? Be it even the overtraining or the muscle breakdown markers, C-reactive protein, or be it the creatine phosphokinase, lactate dehydrogenase, or we want to correlate and see what is going on. Similarly, once we see now, we off late sometimes we see pre-diabetes in athletes, and it's quite alarming. So see, you need the carbohydrate during a high training, maybe the simple sugars as electrolytes and your energy drink that you need during your training, but then you are overdoing that. Automatically there is a tendency for your HbA1c or the glycosylated hemoglobin to go up. If you've got a sugar craving, you don't eat right, and then, or you see high amount of uric acid. Either sometimes it could be due to high intake of protein. Similarly, sometimes we see creatinine going up, which is a kidney marker.
Right.
So that could be either not only because of overtraining, but it sometimes could also be due to just over abuse or overdoing certain protein or protein supplements when not needed. So I think it really helps us to correlate, the blood parameters, the requirement, the training regime of that child, and of course, how professionally the athlete is playing and what the training load looks like. And of course the other lifestyle parameters in terms of, what is your rest recovery protocol, what is your sleep. Everybody wants to grow muscles, but nobody sleeps too early. I mean,
Right.
generally with the onset, or rather the intrusion of the mobile phones to so many other gadgets, from the homework to other schedule, the thing here is to also look at other aspects that can lower your cortisol or your stress hormone, increase your muscles only because there's growth hormone released midnight. So I think there are a lot of other aspects also. It's not just protein supplement that can help you build muscles, right? To do things scientifically. So we look at several aspects, is what I'm trying to say. When we want to give diet advice, it's not a diet chart alone, right? We have to look at it in several parameters in terms of anthropometry, what's your visceral fat. Many times we see liver enzymes correlate to high visceral fat, which is but given, right? Sometimes if the athlete has gone off during, off season, or very typically we see after competition, there's such mental and physical fatigue. Athletes just want to just let go for a few weeks. So you automatically see weight going up, fat percentage goes up, visceral fat goes up. And God forbid, if you're off season and don't take care, sometimes you see some of these cholesterol going up. You see the bad cholesterol, LDL. You see liver enzymes going up. So I think to correlate your body parameters, your blood tests, which is your biochemical parameters, look at your diet pattern,
Mm.
and also how you feel. We know athletes who wake up very tired.
Mm.
Forget going to sleep tired. They don't feel rested. So obviously that means there are red flags, and we have to address as to what is going on. So I think that way in my kind of work, it helps me correlate all of these, and then come to then you tailor make the requirement, be it the nutritional plan. If they're pre-diabetic, just going off white rice and sugar, off your training time. That is, when need be, you need to eat high GI foods around training. So just to give you a context or an example, going off sugars, and when you have sugar craving, is there a way we can increase protein, increase satiety? There are many ways we want to correlate, just guiding them, advising them, and then also understanding the science as to when you want to repeat the blood test. HbA1c itself is blood sugar reading of three months. So not to just, randomly do things which will be 15 days, 1 month, it's not going to matter. These are
Right.
all long haul, and, and honestly, the child will be given another, a prick, or, to do the blood test. So just to be very scientific in your approach, and correlating the nutritional guidelines in terms of the meal plan or the diet chart, along with the supplement protocol and lifestyle. They all go hand in hand.
And it-
You cannot alienate one from the other, so they're very intricate.
And that's fascinating. You touch base on so many things. While my question was about what should be the right diet for kids starting up, but I think there is no one simple formula for this. What I understand from you, it depends on number of factors. One is, of course, you mentioned the blood test. That's the starting point where we get to see where you are at the moment and what's your blood sugar and creatinine and multiple other the chemical stuff you spoke about. Then it's your training routine, your regime, your expectations, your dietary requirements, your whether you're vegetarian, non-vegetarian. There are n number of factors to be considered before anybody, before even you will go ahead and recommend what's good for you and what's not. Having those repeated blood tests are also important, as you mentioned. It's just to check whether whatever you are doing is working out in the manner you have planned. Is there anything which needs to be changed, etc., etc. Now, and you also touch base very important on protein requirements, and there's a growing trend, I think, in everywhere, and not just in India, is about supplements. There's no right time. Whenever people see that, oh, this is not working, perhaps it's the lack of protein. Let's take some protein supplements. Let's take some multivitamins. They'll buy from a shop, or some doctor will tell them, just take this. They will take it for 6 months, and there is no discipline, or there's lack of discipline, I'll say, again, because of lack of knowledge, etc., etc. So how do we, and there are so many variety of proteins. There's whey proteins, there's plant proteins, there are isolates in the market, there are creatines in the market, and I know professional athletes do take this advice from you all, and they'll go for some amount of protein, as you said, 20 grams or whatever it is. They will also go for creatine, I think, little amount of creatine every day, maybe during breakfast or whatever it is. Um, but what's the formula like? I mean, what should we trust and what should we not trust? There's so many theories going around. So tell and give our users a right perspective of how should we go about what's trustworthy and what's not. What should be you doing and what should you not be doing? Um, and then of course they still need people like you to guide them. But if you can give us some idea about it.
So this is a very, very, what is the word? A popular question that you have asked me, and I hope that our viewers will benefit from this very objective answer. And I'll try to keep it as crisp. But now you already know that there are multiple parameters we take into consideration when we even plan a supplement. Because first, as a dietitian, and as a preventive dietitian, our first principle is please get your food right. We never say please don't eat well, but eat a protein supplement or consume a protein supplement. I think as any ethical practicing sports nutritionist or a dietitian, I trust that everybody will echo my thoughts on this. We never say that. But having
Mhm.
said that, you need to eat your meals well. Focus on food first. Undoubtedly, that is always our first advocacy, and I always say this in all the interviews or any of these sessions. But there is nothing wrong in taking a protein supplement, and definitely nothing absolutely wrong in consuming a creatine when needed.
Okay.
Now, who and how do you use it? And when and how, and many, many other things, like that research answer we say why, who, when, how much, how long. I think all those questions come into play here. Uh, of course, youngest of children in preteens and early adolescents may not need protein supplements. And
Okay.
also, if you see, because I hold a postgraduate diploma from the International Olympic Committee, ethically, our consensus statements or IOC guidelines are very clear about saying below 18 years of age, supplement protocol should ideally be avoided, and also perhaps periodized, meaning that you will need it when, or you will consume it when needed
Okay.
for smaller duration of time period,
Okay.
and you go off that.
Okay.
Uh, but again, even in children in their early teens, there may be times you may need these protein supplements. And for several reasons, like I already called out, that they may be vegetarians, they may be overtraining, they may be traveling for a tournament, they may be in a peak competition season where they're not recovering well, they're forever sick. And it happens. We
Right.
see this day in, day out. We ask some of our international athletes, they were in Africa, they were in North India somewhere. I mean, wherever this event happened, Orissa, then they're back, they're in Goa, then they were in China twice. They're on a roll and they are traveling over months. So in these kind of situations, what happens is the immunity is compromised, and definitely there is a challenge, especially if there is a lesser intake of a protein supplement. So in these situations, yeah, even a younger, in my opinion, if there is a need, periodizing and using it in smaller periods or pockets of time duration can be definitely an intuition. Now, also creatine. What happens with creatine is creatine not only helps improve your energy in terms of giving you that extra edge for short bursts of energy or sprint activity, but creatine also is a very powerful antioxidant and can enhance recovery and improve your cognition or your brain function. And typically it's used in older or children with in later towards the adolescence, and perhaps in young adults.
Okay.
Harshita, is there an issue with the internet, or you're there, right?
Yeah, she's around. She's around.
Okay, cool. No, because yeah, Sanket is frozen. Sorry. All right. So sorry, I got distracted. Yeah. Uh, so yes, and creatinine can, the supplement creatine can also be very useful if somebody is practicing strength training. So obviously, it not only helps give you the extra power of oomph to lift more because it obviously replenishes ATP, which is basically giving you energy. But also, it can help you build muscle provided you also look at strength training and complement that with the adequate intake of the protein. So yes, when timed right and when needed, these nutrients or these nutritional supplements can be used judiciously, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Right, right. But you also mentioned the fact that it should not be for kids who are very young, or depends rather whether how much training they are doing and what kind of SNC
True.
is required, etc., etc. And generally for high performing athletes, maybe those cricketers and footballers, they're running a lot, they're striving, building their muscles. I think this definitely is going to help. Come back to the question. I mean, different type of proteins are available. Um, uh, Plant-based protein, there are non-plant-based proteins, and different proteins have different side effects as well. So I don't know and whether how much of a research is being done by the players or the athletes or just normal people like us. We'll go to the shop, Amazon or somewhere, we will just order one protein shake, and next day you know that you were complaining about bloating and all that stuff. And this is very common because some of the protein supplements might suit you, might not suit you. In that case, what's an ideal thing to do? Is it like plant-based protein will always work, or but I have heard even plant-based protein at times is creates those digestion issues, etc., etc. Those are, there's no one formula to it. But if somebody has to go for one type of proteins, which generally will abide by your dietary regulations, what could it be?
Yes, you also asked me that question and the safety issue. So I'll try and cover those two responses. As you aptly said, we need to personalize the need for what is the type of protein that an individual or an athlete will need. Some of them will ethically choose plant-based protein because they may be vegans or vegetarians,
Right.
unless and until they have lactose intolerance and don't want to do dairy. That's again a personal choice. But by the scientific recommendation, we always want to focus on whey isolate, which has more leucine, which triggers the muscle protein synthesis
Okay.
through some the jargon is called the mTOR pathways. I'm not an exercise physiologist, but at least from the research findings and other things that we try and read, what we understand is leucine trigger. So typically a scoop of whey isolate gives you about 2.5 to 3 grams of leucine. So there is no replacement to leucine. And so whey becomes the best source. Like you aptly said, some of the supplements which contain more lactose or concentrate, which is slightly economical, can lead to bloating because of lactose, particularly if you're lactose intolerant or you have irritable bowel, IBS. Some athletes are very sensitive to that. And for that matter, even any protein supplement can lead to a bit of gas and bloating. Now, if it's plant-based, we have mixed proteins, blends, we have soy protein, we have pea protein. So the plant-based protein lack one amino acid or slightly lower methionine. So that's why mixed or blends are better, like the rice and quinoa protein with the plant protein. Again, if you have sensitive issue with soy-based, I mean, in boys, we know that up to 25 grams of protein from soya can be consumed. In males, typically we want the male sexual hormone testosterone to be higher. There are some mixed suggestions around the plant-based or the soya protein. So I personally may not use too much of that unless until there is an issue. Like, for example, if you use casein, typically because of its insulin spike, it may lead to sebum, which is basically oil gland issues, the acne. Unless and until there is a medical issue or any other challenge, I typically don't steer clear from the dairy aspect, unless and until it's for ethical and personal reasons that they want to do plant based. And then of course you can add a standalone leucine amino acid to enhance muscle protein synthesis. That's one option. You could do, if you're choosing plant-based, yeah, go easy with soy, because being a plant estrogen, unless and until the guy is youthful and has higher testosterone, there's no concern. But then you don't want to overdo a supplement. Supplement always means just that added bonus as extra in addition, right? Supplement literally means that. So we never say that, do 2 scoops, 3 scoops. I, in fact, personally never do more than, I mean, more than one, yes, that will need base. So we never say take 3-4 scoops of protein. And besides, yeah, it's a very complicated uh, yeah, what is the word? A recommendation or the conclusion to say that a body can absorb a certain optimal amount of protein, right? For muscle protein synthesis. You may eat, say, 30 gram, but there's hardly what a very, very minor percentage of it which actually converts to muscle. So meaning that the body perhaps may not absorb all of those 25-30 grams, because there is a certain amount of protein that it can optimally absorb into the muscle and digest. But what it means is that anything extra other than that is unnecessary and can just get oxidized or burnt as food, which is just expensive because supplements are costly.
Yeah.
So for the vegetarians who are looking to use soy or pea protein, look at blends. So that will give them better amino acid profile and superior quality. And you can add standalone amino acids as leucine to get that extra muscle protein synthesis boost. Now, for the safety aspect, Sanket, which you asked me, yeah, this is a very, very crucial one. And I think we definitely need to educate our athletes at grassroots levels. And even for that matter, if you are anybody who's into physical activity or, exercise, a lot of people pick up stuff off the shelf, either from a store or from Amazon, for economical reasons that it can be cheaper. But at least if you're an athlete, see, at elite level, it goes without saying you will be subjected to dope test. So there we educate them and say that you have to look at batch tested or third party verified product. But the budgets, right, the cost also goes up typically always, because every batch tested product has got a
Yeah.
stamp, right? So which means that unless and until they have a sponsor or they have the funding, because you take 1 or 2 scoops a day, which means that a kg may last you barely for a few weeks or lesser, right? So which
Yeah.
means that it's an ongoing expense. But for the others who perhaps may not need a third party verified or a batch tested product, what's important is that you may want to look at brands that are that have standalone products. Please steer clear from added, multiple concoction of ingredients. Typically, look at just a pure isolate, though it may be slightly pricier, but then at least you know that it has no lactose or any other buffering agents, or they top it up with a lot of other branch chain amino acids. So you want to compare the label. Just read the label. The lesser the number of ingredients in the label or the ingredient list, the better that is. So look at that, and perhaps some of these brands may be economical. However, they will publish. If you go to their website, they will have a certification of a lab test. So look at some validation in context to the quality in those aspects. In my opinion, maybe this may help an amateur or somebody who doesn't have large budgets but would like to augment and use a protein supplement. Maybe this will be a good way to start.
Perfect. My God, this is so many things to be taken care of, Geetha ma'am, and I think this is probably the highest level of information I've got from any sports nutritionist I've spoken to, is to what's the right way of finding a protein shake or whatever supplement in the right budget. And I think one very important thing you mentioned is read carefully about it. More ingredients, more mixtures inside it, then something is not good for you. So I think, as you mentioned, proper isolate is something which should work for most of them if they cannot afford third party verified ones. And for vegans, actually, you mentioned about plant protein, soy, peas, and all that stuff. Something good to look at. But you also touch base on some of the other aspects. I'll come back to it, which is more about looking at the chemical balance. You mentioned about amino acids, and I think that goes down to macronutrients, micronutrients, all signs about nutrition rather. and even calculating how much of a protein your body needs, because whatever I think the dal chawal and all that what we eat today is giving us something. It's not that they are zero proteins, right? If you eat 4 eggs a day, anyway you are getting some proteins from it. You are eating your dal, you get some protein from it. You're eating your sprouts, you're getting something from it. And then whatever remaining has to be covered up by some of these supplements. So what's that calculation like? If you can give us some idea about the macronutrients, micronutrients, the breakdown of it. You spoke about amino acids in detail, and certain amount of grams you mentioned about, that this is something which is decent, people should go for. Then, as an amateur, how should they plan about it? I mean, what should they have? What's the takeaway for them?
So this is becoming an interesting science lesson now. But yeah, nonetheless. So yeah, like I said, this can be very dynamic and can change in every setting and every athlete scenario, from a young child all the way from adolescents to young adults. But just to give you a ballpark, I think what is important and what the science today has conclusively, given out guidelines is, it's not about eating like it's at least in India sometimes. We have very carb heavy meals. It could be idli, dosa, or poha, where there is no planning of should there be a katori of dahi on the side, or some eggs on the side, or peanuts alone are not enough. How much peanuts will you eat? A handful, which can be negligible amount of protein, though complementation works. Like you could do the dokla, or not dokla, the idli, dosa, rajma, chawal, roti, dal, basically combining dals and at least in our science jargon, just combining rice and pulses can improve the amino acid profile, but you need to eat larger portions. So if you just say like at least we know that even vegetarians and even female athletes can meet the requirement provided you eat larger portions. As simple as that. So vegetarians, all the vegetarians will get quite rather, yeah, wary if I say this, but yes, you can meet your requirement by following a vegetarian diet, but just ensure that you eat larger portion, like omega-3 again, right? Maybe that's something we must talk about. Like you don't have to eat the fish oil or the fish oil capsule, I mean the fish or the fish oil capsule, but if you need to eat the chia seeds and all, you just have to remember you need larger portions of it to meet the same amount, right? Because conversion is as little as less than 5%. So the thumb rule here is to keep about 15-20 grams of protein distributed 3 to 4 meals across the day. Like you aptly said, one egg is 6 grams of protein. So if you want to target about say 20, which means you need to do say maybe two whole eggs with yolk and maybe 1 or 2 whites in addition, approximately,
Right.
andazes. So, which means that if you've taken care of that and you're vegetarian, then you will either do paneer or tofu or, soy chop, which is higher quality protein. So, which means that you have to remember that you need about 50 grams, which is quite a bit, right? Because soy chunks, once you soak it, they swell and they become larger in portion. So, and
Right.
because dals will give you only 7, but they lack one amino acid, methionine, as I called out. So, which means that you need to, for getting 20 grams of protein, you will have to eat 3 to 4 katori of chole or dal. So, which means
Right.
that you're needing the manifold or the portions amplify. So an athlete should be able to eat that dahi and sabzi and rice and 3 katori dal. So which means the volume just goes up. So there's nothing right or nothing wrong. You just have to see what works for you. And if you're a big eater, good for you. But then what if you're a small eater, someone like me right now? I can't do large portions at all anymore. So there you could do tempeh. Maybe eating just even 10 grams can give you approximately 10 odd grams of protein. So you just have to look at foods that can be not voluminous, but you can get larger portions of protein. Like for example, those who can afford perhaps will not eat 3-4 katoris of dahi, which will give us about 12-gram protein, but you may eat Greek yogurt where just 1 katori can give you the same amount what you get in 3 katori of a regular dahi, right? But then again, there is a affordability there. Can you afford Greek yogurt? Because it just becomes costly to survive that on a day-to-day basis. So there are many ways you could, and of course if you're non-vegetarian, then it's a breeze because you just eat smaller portion, you get lesser amount of fat. It's typically fat free because dairy, you eat 100 grams of paneer, you will get approximately 25 grams of fat. And
True,
what if the
true.
athlete is fat cutting phase or weight cutting phase? Then you really don't need that amount of fat because you're just using 3 times more the calorie intake.
And even
Or
different types of dairies, right? Low fat milk, high fat milk, full cream milk.
yeah,
Uh,
dairy
uh,
by itself is very fat rich. So milk, dairy products become very fat dense. So the calories also is more than 2 times. So there, that is where we want to educate athletes. And so just remembering to distribute the way the examples that I said. Then of course eating chicken, fish becomes quite easy because you're just eating smaller portions to get the similar amount of protein in a meal.
Right. But there is another thing is that there's so much of industrialization going on, and which has actually impacted even the food, the food chain, overall food chain. The amount of protein we think we might get from something might not be real. So the good quality protein is slowly coming down in all the food we intake. So making those calculations becomes then in that case extremely more difficult. You are just living on notions that okay, 4 eggs, so I got this much. I had chia seeds, so probably I got this much, but you may not be eventually getting it. So parents or sports athletes might be still living in that phenomena that mila ki nahi, did I get enough or did I not get enough? So how should I measure? So how to come out of those mindsets?
Okay, that's a wonderful question and very intriguing one. Um, So yes, one is definitely with adulteration and the challenge, we don't know what is being offered.
Right.
Number two is another thing is if we get into the gastrointestinal and gut health, let's not even take there and go to bioavailability. What is
Mm.
being offered to what your body absorbs are, I think they're a universe by themselves.
Right.
Like recently, we saw 3, 4 days ago all over the newspaper in Bangalore, do not eat green leafy vegetables because they're contaminated with heavy metals. All the
Right.
vegetables, not only green
Yeah.
leafy vegetables. Today we know
True.
you can't eat even rice. Brown rice is, even organic brown rice has arsenic.
Yeah. True.
So from heavy metal contamination to actually what you said, the protein. Today we know that a free range hen or the eggs that come from a free range hen are far more nutritionally superior. And we also know, for that matter, that we also had certain studies saying that organic vegetables are far superior because not because they lack pesticides, but nutritionally also they have more value or nutrient content in them. But yes, I understand if it is farm bred or in the poultry, what happens in these farms when these hens just are made to look larger and perhaps the quality of protein in them comes down. Yes, I hear you, and I think I deal with this day in, day out. As dietitians, I think that's one thing we say that in the given realm of our knowledge of what we understand, food can never be 100%.
Right.
So one question I'm always asked is, how many calories is this? Or, we have a lot of guidelines, right? We say we want to eat 1 gram of carbohydrate before workout. We want 30 grams of carbohydrate in every half hour during workout. We want, say, 25 grams of protein post workout. I mean, the Olympics has given her all the jargon and the guidelines, called out every single, requirement. Now, how does one decipher this guideline? What is 1 gram of carbohydrate per kg body weight? What happens to
True.
one roti? One
True.
roti, one fruit, one katori dal, one katori, sabzi or say aloo. It's 15 grams of carbohydrate. But how do you make this simplify? Or how do you simplify this so that the athlete can not get into the calculation, like for example hydration status, way before, way after, way your urine output. There are several fancy equations where we can teach athletes on how you need to make sure you're not having heat stroke or heat injury because you need to hydrate well. But simplifying this and just saying check your urine color, it should remain as pale as possible,
Right.
not transparent, because athletes think transparent urine is good. So similarly with protein, and your say you don't have a body composition analyzer where you want to check your muscle mass, your body or physique transformation in terms of tracking your increase of muscle mass, and you want to track how your fat percentage is getting lower. Ideally, that's the best yardstick. But is that the only way? And do we need to complicate this always? Can we just, take a inch tape or a thread and take it around our waist and just check what our value was 2 months ago and what we are today? Right? And one thing we say is don't weigh yourself, because weight
Right.
is very, very complicated. And rather,
Right.
it is also like weighing food, weighing yourself every day. There are two sides of, discussion to that. But what we
Right.
say, at least in my opinion, if it is healthy and it helps you stay disciplined, good for you. But if it's going to cause anxiety and it's going to deviate you from your goals, then it doesn't meet your requirement. So we need to look at more subtle progress charts, where we could just look at inch measurement, because your clothes become loose, you look more toned, your friends compliment you because you are, looking more muscular, your silhouette or your, body is changing, you feel stronger. And most importantly, everybody is obsessed about weight, but I think there are very few people who want to track progress in terms of quality of life, energy, recovery, not having injury. I slept well, I wake up fresh. I think these are also equally important
Yeah.
parameters that are not prioritized.
I
Everybody
totally
is
agree.
focused about muscle mass.
I totally agree. I think people are very much obsessed towards having muscle mass, and measuring that inch pretty much every other day, whether it has gone down, not gone down, etc. And
But
I
they're
and I
very, Sanket, they're very slow, right? So that's what
yeah, very
these are
slow.
all long haul, and the patience needed to
And
have the
they get
discipline.
and that's how they get demotivated. Oh, it's not working, I'm still not reducing. uh, so let's reduce, let's not do this anymore, let's change to something else. But I think the right measurement is how energetic you're feeling today. Are you feeling, did you have a good sleep? Are you able to do your activities much better? And I think, personally for me as well, I think I judge myself in those parameters, and not judging in terms of how much weight I lost today and how many inches I lost today. I think if I'm feeling better today compared to what I was yesterday, then it definitely is working. Um, Come back to the other thing we also mentioned about the kind of the food we are intaking these days. Definitely, the quality is going down. I think that is nothing but, frankly, I think the due diligence is a lot more important over there as well. What we are consuming, I think we should try and read more about it, study more about it, be more knowledgeable on the source of it, etc., etc. Of course, everything has a cost, and as individuals, we have to see what works best for us, isn't it? And if your body is able to take it, all good. If not, then perhaps you have to change. Is that correct?
Absolutely, because like I said, the one way of knowing that is, one is very subtle and intangible aspects of our
Right.
interaction when we do consultation with the athlete. The first thing we ask is, your stress level, your mood, your urine color. From small little things like this, do you sleep sound? Do you, are you disturbed? What about your, just your mental composure? Um, are you agitated? Do you have sports performance anxiety? I think, do you overeat? There are times females are expecting menstrual cycle. We know, and at least now female athletes have very different needs because of the changing hormones. There is a tendency to eat more, and that's fine. But I
Right.
think, to be sensitive to that aspect, to say that your body is constantly changing every few weeks, to be empathetic, to say that it's fine if you eat extra one roti, one katori, or you went out and ate, it doesn't matter. I think, to just go all out and be aggressive and follow one way, and then perhaps, and at one point you just snap and then you just totally divert. I think it never works. I think, in my approach, I always tell everybody it's best to keep a flexitarian approach, where you want to follow over 50%. If you can do over 50%, that's a win-win situation. And what you do that 20, 20, 30% of the time, it really doesn't matter, because these goals that you set forth could be short term, long term. And I think I'm just very fortunate, like with some of our children who've done so wonderfully well in national games today, and representing even India at national, Asian games. It's so wonderful. I'm so fortunate. I've worked with some of these athletes for the last, what, 3 years, 2 years, at least more than that, no, 4 years. And it's a process. I think, to have that maturity and the outlook to say that we are a team, there will be ups and downs. We need to stick around and work collaboratively. to hold the ground and put aside. I think eventually that is what matters. I think even as elite athletes who compete, there's so many challenges. But to, I think, just believe in the vision that we want to do something. Like, for example, now I think the next thing is, of course, Olympics next year is too close, but perhaps we
Right.
never know what will happen in the next 5 years. Where will our swimmers be? I'm already excited for, God willing. I know I work with one Olympian who's a swimmer, but yeah, God willing, I hope I'll be, a pioneer in working with somebody who will represent my country at Olympics from scratch, right? We've been working with these kids for the last 3-4 years. And yeah, there's a field that is coming up. So to have the patience and be, what is the word, well informed, like you aptly said, to take informed decisions as a team, to be collective, to be a part of the supports team, and look at it in a very, very progressive fashion. Not the instant gratification is what everybody wants today. Because these, like you said, be it the muscle mass, be it the weight, be it your energy or endurance, nothing changes overnight. Even if you work with the best of the team, the athlete will have some of these challenges on a day-to-day basis. And that doesn't mean that any one support staff is incompetent or bad. It's just a phase of an athlete. But we need to have the commitment to stick around and just work things out.
No, I totally agree. This is like, as you mentioned earlier, I just noted down, you call it a flexitarian approach, which is such a nice word to have. It just encapsulates pretty much everything. It's about trusting the process, be flexible, be adaptable, keeping things simple, and it's a long process. It's not that you have it today and tomorrow the results are going to come. So I think you have to trust the experts, the professionals out there, and it's there with every athlete. Anyone who is performing out there, they give n number of years before they represent the country. So, and they keep doing it, keep doing it, keep doing it. Only then they hone their skills and they reach to the national level. So it's the same thing. It's about doing that thing again and again, repeatedly following it, improvising it. I like that thing, the flexitarian approach, which is the right word to mention it. I think we are running out of time, ma'am. So I will have a few more questions for you. What uh, there's so much of knowledge which you have shared today, frankly, about the science around it and the what should be the right approach. With so much of evolution happening in technology, in science, especially more and more about how physiology wise, men and women are so different, the demands are so different. What's your general process of keeping yourself updated on daily basis on what are the new things coming up, how you should deal with players of a new age, some of the experienced players, coaches. Nowadays, coaches are so informed. Um, 10 years or 5 years before, the coaches were the one doing everything, and mothers at home were the nutritionists. Now that things have changed, so क्या लगता है आपको? What do you think? How these things are shaping up now?
Oh, absolutely. You need to stay on top of things. It's good to be well read. And, when you put forth a suggestion, I've had a point where I have dealt with the most senior coach, and I've had to share the jargon and the science and put forth my discussion to validate what I've set out to say. Was when I was questioned, why do you need to use this supplement for a young kid?
Okay.
And we are also like, I have taken on doctors when I have sent for injections for B12, vitamin D. I've had to give pediatric guidelines because, as much as I have respect for every individual in their domain, I think as dietitians, we are also well read and we know what we say. So to undermine our expertise, it's nothing personal, or it's not a hassle in context to taking it personally, but to be able to in a very rational and very objective manner to put forth the evidence to say why you are setting forth or why you would like to approach this, but to have a very what is the word, evolved discussion. I will say it's not that you're calling the shots, but
Right.
at the same time, yeah, to have the humility to also know that you are very human. Your gray matter will sublime. you're as human as anybody else, and you're not a robot. Like in our times, we used to have an animated series, not animated. What is this one? We used to watch one series where this little robot would read off the book, and she could just rattle it out, right? She just vomit the whole book. So sadly, we are not that, right? We have artificial intelligence today, but we are not that, sadly, because like today, whatever I'm speaking, it comes from the experience of what I do day in day out, and thankfully, it's all there in the head. It's the intellectual property. But then yeah, that takes effort to, and I think teaching, so to have the humility to say that you are very human and you may not know everything. Many times we learn in even seminars, webinars, to we have participants who teach us. Because so not everybody, trust me, they know the fanciest of the supplement brands and the fanciest of the most novice product that has come on in the market. Because sometimes honestly you may not do everything, from the parent community to the athletes to so to be very humble and to have an open mind to say that you are open to learning. I think that has, personally, it's been my principle. So that has helped. And to also teach, I think we are, in fact, I would love and for you to share this on your platform. We are offering a IIT sports nutrition certification program, and this is under the Ministry of Education, Swayam NPTEL, and the Ministry of Education is offering this literally free for everybody, any support staff. There are like a half a dozen sports science subjects, and sports nutrition is one of them. And if you would like to enroll, it's absolutely free unless and until you want to do an exam, and that has to be done physically at a center for rupees 1,000. And
Okay.
trust me, it's 20 years of experience what we are putting forth there. So it's a 20-hour certification, and it's just available for anybody across the world.
No,
So
this is phenomenal. Such a great thing. It's not very expensive. It's affordable. It's free. Even if you don't want to give
if
an
you are,
exam, you can
yes,
gain that knowledge, which is eventually.
absolutely. In
Mm,
20 hours of lecture, there's one topic that interests you, recovery. You just attend, you could hear the recorded lecture on only recovery chapter. You don't even listen to the whole jargon, right?
true, true,
High
true,
performance module. You want to know only what to do on competition day. You can attend only that chapter.
true, true. No, definitely. I think I will look for this more information from you, and if required, help us
Yes,
with
please.
that. We will definitely put it on our website as well. Towards
Yes,
the end,
please.
ma'am, um, if I may ask, what would be an ideal diet for Geetha, ma'am? What would be on your plates as breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and perhaps.
Uh, but I will say this, but you can't put this on your video. From being greedy 30 years or 40 years ago to having evolved to being now a foodie, I still love food. I think food is so, I mean, I'm just very grateful to God. And of course, now I have developed lactose intolerance and some other challenges. So I can't do a lot of things now anymore. So eating just normal food has become a big challenge. But nonetheless, I think just being appreciative of food, like I already said, being a foodie, I love to try different cuisines, and growing up pretty much mostly as a vegetarian. Thankfully, I used to eat non-veg outside. I didn't have qualms with that.
Okay.
But yes, I do. Like I said, it's a flexitarian diet where you are not hardcore vegetarian, but one odd time, maybe 5-10% if given outside. Very rarely, I used to consume non-veg. So but yes, I like to eat freshly home cooked food. I think my mantra is, eat simple, eat fresh food whenever possible. Now with this vegetable fiasco of what I've read with the heavy metal, I've been wanting to go back to soaking it in vinegar and sodium bicarbonate before consuming. So I cook my own food. So I'm actually, you can say it's a kind of OCD, rather a mental illness. We call it orthorexia, right? So I generally don't like to eat deep fried stuff because you know that the hydrocarbons change in the charbroiled foods, the tandoori foods and things like that, which people think is healthy. It's not, right? It's cancerous. So the especially the protein rich foods, non-veg. So being a, I think, simple thing to keep it simple, homemade and fresh whenever possible. I of course eat from the fridge. But yes, I think to just be grateful and enjoy the meal with gratitude. I think as you age, it comes in, a bit of philosophy in life. I think you take up, because I have lost both my parents to illness a long time ago. My father was a government official. I lost dad 27 years ago, to cancer. And today, in fact, is my mother's death anniversary. I think what 13 years, 14 years, yeah. So I think also to just be grateful to be alive, that I've lost one or two people I've known through COVID. To just be grateful to eat that next meal with a prayer, which many people I think forget, thankfully. But like I said, Sanket, I think it's a process of aging, right? After 20 odd years of work, you just be grateful to God that you have food. You can afford the best of meals today. And to keep it simple and just home cooked as much as possible, 99%. I think that is what works for me.
True. No, I think such precious words you have mentioned, being grateful to God for who we are today and having meals on our plate. That itself is such a big thing. And you're being so humble, putting it, making it so simple, but actually it's not. I totally agree. There's no OCD about it, ma'am, frankly. I mean, this is all your experience coming out. You know science so well, you understand things so well. I think making sure you have good hygienic food is no OCD. So definitely I won't take it like that. Um, but yeah, I think you definitely ensure that you keep things very simple. End of the day, I think that's all what we need to do, keeping it simple and praying God that we keep simple throughout our life, and we have good meals on our plate every day. Thank you, ma'am, again for joining today. Geetha, ma'am, lovely talking to you. There's so much of knowledge you have shared with us today. I really enjoyed this conversation. There's hardly been too many conversations of this nature, and I'm sure the readers, when this video goes out, they're going to enjoy this even more. This is being very fascinating conversation with you. I really appreciate you joining us today. Thank you, ma'am, and have a great day ahead. All right.
Yeah, thank you, Sanket. I don't have your number. Harshita, can you share his contact?
Yes, ma'am, I'll do that.
Okay, great. Thank you, Sanket. Sorry if I have taken a bit longer.
Oh, this is lovely. In fact, I can go on for another hour. Just that.
No,
I,
let's do it in parts. I mean, I'm sure we can bring value
yes,
addition
yes,
and improve the ecosystem. I think
lovely.
education is one area of my aspect. Like you said, what keeps you, what improves your skill, knowledge, skills, and how do you do this? I think just to have that desire to keep learning, right? Because only when you teach others do you learn better.
True,
This is
true,
what
true.
I figured when I started offering certification programs in sports nutrition.
Something we should definitely explore, and I'm totally for you, open to exploring together with you. And this is something which is very close to us. In fact, we updated our portal with a health segment, completely newly done, I think, a couple of weeks back. And we are definitely going to put a lot more focus on health and nutrition in sports. So with
Lovely.
you coming to us in this particular session, sharing so much, I think this is going to be a good kickoff in that particular process. Thank you so much, ma'am. Have a
Oh,
lovely evening.
surely, Sanket. Yeah, thank you so much. And yeah, I'm grateful again. Thank you for having me here. Hope it can help a few people.
Thank you. Thanks, Geetha.
Yeah. See
Ma'am,
you. See
thank
you.
you,
Bye.
Harshita.
See you,
Take care. Bye.
Harshita. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, ma'am. Bye.